honor and a pleasure to be here with Director Mark Pestrella of Los Angeles County Public Works. And Mark has a distinguished career of more than 32 years, and really excited about being here and talking through some of the priorities of the county, supervisors, and look forward to it. I'm Dan Bunce, and I'm here with my colleague Lisa Skutecki, BC Water News. And shall we get started?
Sure, that's great.
Mark, we'd love to hear more about the Board of Supervisors and Public Works priorities as they relate to having a long-lasting positive effect on the county, especially as we're thinking about building the 21st century infrastructure.
The Board of Supervisors, working with them very closely, just so blessed to have such a progressive board that's really invested in community and in big, high-quality outcomes for the county at large, not only unincorporated county, but all of the 88 cities in the county as well as the unincorporated area, about 10 million people, and a land area of over 4,000 square miles, so the challenges are gigantic. In talking with the board and in seeing their actions, you will know, and I know directly that their priorities start with homelessness, attacking the issue, the social equity issue of Los Angeles County and the social crisis of our time, and that's homelessness. And maybe we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how that relates to infrastructure, and there is a direct nexus for those of the folks that don't know, and particularly when it comes to housing and sheltering the residents who don't have shelter currently. The other priority of the board, which I've worked very closely with obviously, is investing in 21st century infrastructure. And in that investment, that we go about it in a way that's integrated and that takes advantage of multi-benefit approach to infrastructure without leaving people behind, watching out for gentrification, reflecting culture wherever we are, respecting the cultures of Los Angeles, which is so diverse, which puts a big challenge on me as a Director of Public Works for LA County, being the largest public works agency in the United States, serving the most people, from one municipal entity serving the most people. But it's a great challenge. I'm so lucky and I'm so blessed to actually be appointed the director during this period of time with everything that's going on, and then to have infrastructure be a priority of the board with everything they have on their plate. It's fantastic. And of course the board is always, along with Public Works, looking to invest in our workforce. That's our third priority here at the department. And that to me is hiring and retaining the most skilled public servants we can find, and to grow people as great public servant leaders. So we're making large investments in making LA County as the premier place to work, in particular LA County Public Works. So those are the top three priorities right now for us.
Nice, thank you for that.
That's great. You mentioned communities. Can you tell us more about how the 21st century infrastructure relates to communities and urbanization?
Sure. I think to look forward, you have to look a little bit back, and I've done a lot of thinking about this over the 33 years, whether it was my field experience and being right in the ground with serving communities from all over LA County. It actually has informed my leadership through the years, those early year experiences, almost 20 years working in the field. And so when I think and I hear someone mention the word community, my priority is always to be first community aware. And that when we become community aware, and what I mean by that is like aware of the needs and the cultures of the community we serve, the diversity of it, we then become obligated in our design and everything we do, the actions we take to serve those needs and serve those communities in the ways that they best serves them. And we really can't know that till we're community aware. So when we look backwards at what happened with infrastructure, in the 1800s, LA County was definitely booming. There was a big draw to come here for economic reasons. You see all the advertisements from that time. It was like this bucolic images of Los Angeles, with the orange trees and Hollywood, and everybody had these sprawling lawns and wide parkways, and one of the drivers was that there was work, and that work would be provided, that the infrastructure would provide the means for the economy to thrive. And so the result of that sort of single priority of economics is and the outcome of it is things like the LA River being paved over, and which is not a bad design when your driver is purely economics. The freeway system being designed to support only the car, the vehicle, and the politics that went along. We could go on and on about that. Much of what we were building in terms of roads was absolutely supporting the development of LA. So whether it was oil fields or subdivisions, the county actually was building the roads to those facilities. I like to tell people to watch There Will Be Blood. You'll see in that movie how the prospectors for oil, they were lobbying the county officials to put roads into places, faraway places like, believe it or not, Redondo Beach and other places like that, across the swamplands to get them to where the oil was. And then same thing with the water system. The water system essentially to serve Los Angeles, it was basically grab any water is good water. We abandoned our local water and started building outside the system to bring more water and convey water from faraway places as time went. And in fact, the LA River was essentially a sewer, and most of what was happening there was the railroad needed to get over it, and people needed to put their refuge and their raw sewage into something, and that's where the LA River was. So it wasn't a pretty time in terms of like environmental awareness or the impact of the long-term thinking. So what's interesting about, and you ask about the community effect, is we've heard from our communities about what they want. They want to live here, have a high quality of life. They want their children to be able to drink the water, to breathe the air, and to have experience all of Los Angeles with equity. And so we're trying to design with equity rather than disparity. Nice. And so that's the effect of really the gross overview. I look at it as like everything we need to do is be community aware and design with equity no matter what we do. And then of course be smart about it because for that multi-benefit approach, and also look long range, because we're going to leave behind something like the designers of the LA River and other places did. They left something behind for the future that also takes into account the future. Climate change and other natural occurrences, the way the Earth is evolving. We need to take that into account as we design our infrastructure these days. So,
great,
nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. That leads into the next question just beautifully. So, we've heard you speak about the 21st century realities that we face. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate more on what this means to you and how that affects our infrastructure?
Yeah, let's talk about it. If someone said to me, I was offered a job early in my career at a smaller municipality where, when I started doing the numbers, I could have probably had more free time and not as had big as challenges. But the fact of the matter is, first, the realities of the density of people who live in Los Angeles County is a huge deal. That's not slowing down. So, population, housing demand, they're all going to, as we project them, increase. When you look at the numbers, people are homeless, and a lot of what's happening is just there's just not affordable housing for people to live in. So we know that population and what comes along with population is one of our big challenges. The other area is, of course, climate and our new climate reality. The heating of our system here, the overall heating of the Earth, but the climate in Los Angeles is projected to get warmer. And with the warming of our area here, we expect the same amount of rain in probably a shorter period of time. So these, not as frequent but very intense storms come through, and we're seeing already some of the effects of that with massive erosion along our shoreline, which nobody talks about. Nobody talks about it, but it's massive, and it's been accelerating through the years. You're seeing people having to retreat off the coastline already. The heating of the hillsides here and the more frequent wildfire, a lot of people don't know and don't think about this, but with wildfire we have mud and debris flow. With mud and debris flow we have sedimentation. And so we have this super increased sedimentation that is occurring and beyond what we had actually originally designed for. And so we're seeing an impact on the reservoirs, for instance, and the storage capacity in LA County at the surface level for water. So with all those challenges, with climate having multiple effects, but the weather being one that's really dead center for infrastructure folks, we're having to take into account that and remodel. And we've done a lot of modeling to optimize our system, not only for now to improve it now, but to looking in the future. And so people that say, well, there's not a lot direct impact on LA County with respect to warming, that's not true. It may look subtle now, but to our forecaster, our climatologist, our designers in-house, we see it as a dramatic challenge. And then the population increase, just to fall back on that one more time, is we have a huge impact, LA County, on what gets built in terms of the vertical construction and housing. And whether it's our development review process here at the department, the easing of permitting, regulatory influence we might have on the region, on the state with respect to getting housing up and going, and then just the way we're treating the homeless in our system, I think we're a model for the nation right now. And as a municipality, collecting over $400 million a year to address it, focusing on housing as a part of it, and then the supervisors directing every department head to make it a priority. And so for us, what we're focusing on is those who are living in our system now, treating them with absolute respect, bringing them hygiene, bringing them respect and meeting with them, bringing them wraparound services, and then also attacking the housing need by standing up shelters, standing up 7 shelters this week, in fact, and also permitting, streamlining the permitting process to create more transitional housing and permanent affordable housing for those residents in LA County that don't have a home right now.
Okay, good. So we know the LA County Board of Supervisors adopted a sustainability plan for LA County, and that envisions building and infrastructure that support human and health and resilience, right? Much of what you've been speaking about here. As Public Works reimagines LA County, what kind of new endeavors and do you envision, and what does LA County look like in the future?
Yeah, I think it is my responsibility to work with the board to develop a vision for infrastructure for LA County. What is it going to look like? And not only in an infrastructure study, but just the way we're going to operate this huge megalopolis in the future. And I just have such bright hope for it because, one, I see the people who are working here are outstanding thinkers, people and our elected officials with like super positive, super progressive approach to the challenges that we were just talking about. I think it's absolutely within our grasp to have safe, clean water, for instance, for everyone, reliable water for everyone, and to have zero reliance on imported water other than emergency, other than in those really dramatic times or periods where we aren't having local rainfall and or enough, say, recycled water to bring about total lack of reliance on imported. So I do see LA County's resilience, water resiliency is headed in the right direction. We are going to have safe, clean water and reliable water for everyone, as I said, with equity. It's a big challenge, but it's one that I see is in our grasp, and it's within our grasp within those whatever dates as mayor or other else has said. I think we set like a 2035 date, and I think our board has had just as much ambition on that front. When it comes to transportation, this is the big exciting thing. The only thing I worry about transportation is that we don't make the same mistakes we made in the past with respect to one or another form of transportation dominating our way we move.
Right.
So we're a multimodal entity. We want to see people move in ways we don't even imagine right now. And I think that's going to happen, again, with the policymakers that are in place, with their drive to push all electric, and also to invest in all forms of mobility. I see LA being not like number one on the traffic issue anymore, but actually being able to move the people who are operating here and coming here in a way that's much more efficient. And we're making big investments in first and last mile connections, and really educating people about what it is, what that asset that they have, which is the street, which many people are like, that's not my domain. I can't operate within the street. And we're finding out there's been multiple uses of the street right away, including the primary one it was designed for, which is moving cars, but moving people via pedestrian or bicycle, having the walkways put in a way that healthy design being put into our transportation system thinking, and again, having an integrated approach in transportation where multi-sectors are served by the transportation system, so water being served, for instance, by the transportation system. In the solid waste arena, what I envision is that we're going to have a community, and I was already on the way to this, a community that's highly aware of their solid waste. We're going to it's either through shame or whatever, that people are going to know where their waste is going.
Right.
And they're going to demand that we cut down on the throwaway society has got to be changed. And we are going to have 21st century infrastructure serving the solid waste arena. And that means we're going to walk away from our landfills most likely. I see zero solid waste going to landfills. I see a massive investment in conversion technology, cutting down again, reducing the amount of waste we produce as individuals. You know, this 4 pounds per day per person has just got to change. Being more efficient with our food waste so that people are served. It's just a shame that there are still people who are struggling with hunger in a place like this. It's crazy. A lot of people don't know that. We're like number 7 in the country, in the world, on food poverty when it comes to food. And that has got to change, and the waste system can actually contribute to that issue. So again, we're going to reduce our impact as well in the greenhouse gas emissions by reducing that landfill waste and capturing the methane gas and putting it to use for us, whether it's an electric system or otherwise. So that's that. It's those 3 sectors are probably the big sectors that I'm hyper focused on, you know, wastewater and transportation. We also see an area of self-resiliency, and that is in the emergency management crisis. Because as this weather situation gets more and more intense, we're finding that people like forgot how to make fires, you know, like don't know where their water comes from, doesn't understand where the sewage goes. And you put them in a situation where all of our utilities have taken away, I mean a big windstorm or something, and you can have a major problem, a major crisis on your hands just from people not being self-reliant enough or being aware. So emergency management is going to involve teaching people, becoming more self-reliant, decentralized system, and then hardening the system so it can be the system of support for people and infrastructure so that it can bounce back more readily. And we're getting a great challenge, and it's been a terrible pleasure to be involved with the Woolsey fire because it's an awful thing that happened, but we're also seeing what the future looks like in terms of LA County's readiness. Where it's an interesting culture there in the Santa Monica Mountains. There's a lot of very resilient people who live off the grid, and there's also a huge amount of people who move there because it's beautiful, but really have never lived like out in a rural area. And so we're investing up there as a model in response, in warning systems, and as well as hugely as in terms of recovery. So what we build back, we want to do better in terms of its ability to survive such events. And that is not only the people's homes, but actually the environment there. The unbelievable loss of natural resources that occurred it's disheartening. And you know, animal life as well as habitat. So, and you look what's happening in Australia. It's a foreshadowing of what could happen here. And so, resiliency, community resiliency through our emergency management arena, but also just overall infrastructure approach has to include resiliency these days because of the condition we're in.
Great vision.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and if you can, I'd like to talk just a little bit more about your 21st century solutions you've been discussing lately and other innovative technologies you've been working on at LA County. We've heard you've been partnering with a nonprofit to launch an innovative trash device in Bayona Creek, which will help stop the flow of plastics to Santa Monica Bay, and you partnered with a nonprofit on that. So can you tell us how that's going?
We have an awesome partnership that I signed under the leadership of Supervisor Hahn, where we are partnering with the Ocean Cleanup to provide a trash capture device at the base of the Bayona Creek. It's going to look like a floating boat, sort of like vacuuming, but not vacuuming, but like mechanically collecting trash at the base of the river, at the outlet of the river. Solar powered facility in which they are providing the technology. We are doing installation with them, and then we'll pilot this. And if it proves out to be something that works for us, we would own and operate that facility in the future. So it's a pretty good deal. I mean, you're getting something for free. I love it. What the Ocean Cleanup's getting is very altruistic. You know, is they're getting to test out this river amongst like 2,000 other rivers in the world. And this idea of capturing trash before it ends up in the great trash dump in the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. That's a good example of us being open and willing and actually like nimble enough to actually partner and put something like that in place, and then to take the risk, because you know innovation can be a risk. A lot of times government agencies are like, we're only going to do it if it's already been done somewhere else, and then even then we still have to we have to prove that what we're doing now is not better. Which there is no place for that, not only in business, but in government business. And government business has to be able to take that kind of risk on innovation. One, because the public deserves us to be taking that kind of risk and they expect that kind of investment. But two, we're in a times when there's no time for us to sit around and wait. We've got a lot of things to do given what's going on.
What a pleasure to spend some time with you today, Mark, and to really think about and hear your vision your embracement and really engaging of your team and your staff here on innovation, and then a partnership with the community and the community at large and throughout LA County, as well as the engineering community. So we look forward to being part of that, and thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
Well,
Really appreciate you taking the time to
Sure,
talk to us.
Lisa. Thanks to both of you, been leaders in the industry. I want to shout out to all my other partners and colleagues across the government sector who are working with me to bring about a change for LA County and bring out a different outcome, if you will, and who are really lockstep with me in this vision of integrated infrastructure for Los Angeles County. So thank you for the time.